Oops. Okay, now you should be able to hear me. If you can hear me, please type in a 1. All right, excellent. Excellent. All right, so today we're going to continue. We're going to continue um, performing level 1 codes, and we're going to move on to the second transcript. Does anyone have any questions? Can't hear me. I can't hear you, sir. Okay. Okay. So if you can hear me, type in a Y. If you can hear me, type in a Y. Okay. Chikule, was there an email with workshop 2 replay? I didn't receive it. Yeah, it came out today. So you have to check your bulk mail. It came out about 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. It was the email that provided the link to, it was in a reminder email for this workshop. Um, replay 2. Replay 2 actually came out 4 hours after. No, replay 2 came at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock today. So check your bulk mail. Yeah, if you don't, so the emails go out about 2 p.m. every day. The reminder emails go out about 2 p.m. every day. So if you don't see it, then you check your bulk mail or your spam. Let's see. All right, just open that up. Yes, please. Yeah. All right, so now we only imported one interview. So now we're going to import all of the interviews, okay? Do you want to save changes? So let's see, transcripts. Oh no, I want to open. So we want to go to project. We want to open up add cases, documents. Okay. So we want to open up the document file, import. Do you want to replace existing document? No. So add case. All right, what we doing here? Where is create new project? Where's my documents? Import transcript, add case. Okay. No, this is not what we want to do. So let's see, project export. We're not importing, open. So we want to open up new documents, not. Here we go. Document images. All right. So where are we here? All right, and then we want to go to transcripts. Now, so I'm going to make this a little wider so you can see it. And I'm going to make this bigger. So just for the record, um, so we went We're going to highlight this, hold down the shift key, and then scroll down to 12, and we're going to add all of those. Well, actually, we're just going to do the first 10. We're only going to do the first 10. And then we're going to click append, import, import, and then click OK, and then OK. All right. All right. So we're going to do the first 10. So we're going to skip 11 and 12. So we're going to remove that, delete case. We're going to delete case 11 and delete case 12 because we're just going to do the first 10. All right. So now we're going to go, because we've already analyzed this, right? So now we're going to go to respondent number 10. All right. And here are our initial codes for the questions, and we're going to go through and analyze the second interview. Okay, again, we're thinking about helping out. Thank you for saying. I'm going to call this interview number 10. Please feel free. Okay, just totally honest with me. Okay, what is your gender? So we're going to highlight this, and we're going to click on gender. All right, because that's the gender. And then we're going to highlight this, and this is going to be the age group. Okay. Gotcha, spring chicken. I make comments like that. I apologize. It's all good. He's white, so ethnicity. Um, at what grade level do you currently teach? Grade level is high school. Okay. Okay, how did you earn your initial teaching certification? All right, so we have to, that's a new one that wasn't added. So we're going to highlight this and we're going to create, it's still under demographics, and we're going to say teaching, we're going to go just call it certification, teaching certification. Okay. Traditional university. So he got his teaching certificate from a traditional university. Okay, have you earned your degree in special education? So that's another one. Um, degree in special ed, and that's a no. Okay, select the total number of years teaching experience, 15 to 20. So we're going to call this um, teaching experience. Okay. How long have you been a teacher of students with disabilities? Um, so we're going to call this experience with students with disabilities. Okay. Okay, how long have you been a teacher with them in your classes? How long have you been teaching? Oh, let me make this bigger. I keep so that you can see. Okay, how long have you been a teacher of student with disabilities as far as you're coming in contact with them in your classes? 18 years. Okay, 18 years. How long have you been teaching students with disabilities at the secondary level? 14 years. So we'll say secondary level. Click on this and we'll say students with disabilities, secondary level. All right. Oh, wow. Now we'll get to the, okay, what do you feel is the role of the special education? Okay, so now we're coming to this. What do you feel the role of special education should be? Um, what do I think it should be? Yeah, what do you feel it should? I feel it should be a co-teacher that is there helping with those students. I want to say keep up with the other kids in the class. Uh, what I feel it should be. So this person is basically saying, so we're going to go here. All right, so now since we're moving to question one, we're going to highlight question one so that when we click on this, it's automatically on question one. Okay. Let's see. I feel what should be the role of the special ed teacher? Should be a co-teacher, help students keep up. Okay, so co-teacher who helps students keep up. Okay. So from this, that's what we got. What I feel it should be a co-teacher that is there helping with those students. I want to say keep up with the other kids in the class, helping them um, amend or adjust what they need to do their learning to keep up with everybody else or excel. Okay. Well, how is a special education teacher utilized in general education? Okay, so now it's moved on to 1B. How is a special education teacher utilized in general education? I mean, how do you think of they're utilized? They're not. They're not. I haven't seen one in my classroom in 10 years. Okay. So that we're going to highlight this and we're going to say not utilized. Uh, not utilized. Okay. 10 years and you've been handling students with special needs and you rarely see my special educator co-teacher is never in my room. Interesting. So I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to add that to that as well. Wow. Okay. So never, never. In the last 10 years, never in my room, maybe once or twice, especially if there is an administrator around. Oh, okay. Um, I've never seen them. Okay, so I like that one better. In the last 10 years. So I'm gonna eliminate this one because this one's better because it captures the same thing here. This one says 10 years, this one says 10 years, but it also says they only come in the room when there's an administrator around. Okay, so that's good. You think it's shorthanded? Bad management. Bad management? Okay. Um, Let me see some. How does having a student? So I want to say something about that. How a special ed teacher? Okay. Nobody pays attention, nobody cares. I mean, quite honestly, before you came, nobody cared. Teachers don't follow IPs in general. I do, but like I said, I deliberately did not get my special education degree. I was one course from it, and I didn't want to be put in that setting. So I've had the training and stuff like that because I am very interested. I want my kids to excel. Okay. Uh, Nobody pays attention. Nobody cares. I mean, quite honestly, before you came, nobody cared. Teachers don't follow IPs, and I do. So I'm going to add that to it as well. Okay. Because that's clarifying, right? That's a clarifying point. Um, so let's see. I also want to highlight the question. What do you feel should be the co-teachers? What? Let's see. So I just want to do that. Okay. Feel the role. And then the next one, especially, okay, how? Okay, that's the next one. Because remember, we want to highlight the question so that it's easier to find them. Okay, so now we come down here. Hey, nobody pays attention. Okay, but seriously, I don't want to use names, but the one that I have assigned to me now doesn't do anything. I had a co-teacher when I first came to Moorfield High School, and she was special education, English, and we taught. That was the ideal situation. She was in here. She helped. Okay, so I want to capture this though. Uh, so this was the ideal situation. But seriously, when I had a co-teacher when I first came to Moorfield, and she was a special education and we taught. That was the ideal situation. She was in here, she helped everybody in the classroom, nobody was any different. Okay. So I want to say how the ideal situation. Um, the ideal situation is co-teacher uh, is co-teaching together. Is co-teaching. The ideal situation is co-teaching because he's saying here um, that this was an example of an ideal co-teaching situation. Okay. So, okay. So far we got two no special ed present, and then we've got an example of an ideal situation, right? So what this third one basically says, okay, even though we don't have them, an ideal situation from a previous situation would look like this. So that could be very helpful when you're coming down to analyzing the data in the later on. She would take over the vocabulary lesson and I would go help, and it was wonderful. I never, I've never had that since. So I'm going to highlight this and add this to the ideal situation. Okay. Hard to tell who was the teacher, who was okay. Got it. Got it. Oh, that's the researcher saying. Yes. And the kids really like that and everything. It would have been more effective if the respondent would have said you couldn't tell the teacher from the special ed teacher, but lost opportunity. Um, and that's how it should be. Again, he's interjecting. He shouldn't be doing that. That's what I feel the ideal situation is. I know this is a blowback area and there's like pros and cons to it, but I know my students are doing well, but that's because I know what I'm doing. Okay, right. I do now, it probably should be no, that the special education that is here is not the way it's supposed to be. Okay, right, got it. Kind of what I'm hearing. It depends. It depends on the makeup of the class. With class sizes of 28, and depending on how many you have in the room, it's bad. But but I've had classes that have been 75%, which was over what they were supposed to be, special ed, which is one of my best classes ever. Interesting. Um, well, that just speaks to his skill. That doesn't speak to the question. All right. Um, I had two aides in the classroom, two because I had special needs. That one on one aid, I had special needs that had one-on-one aides. Um, but I mean, it was one of the best classes I ever taught. The kids excelled, they worked hard, and it was great. I had two aides. I'll 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 add that as an ideal situation. and then we'll just see if we can use it later. But sometimes I feel like it's not the special needs that falls. I feel like upper kids don't go anywhere. Do you know what I mean? The ones that are gifted, they go nowhere. They just sit around and they're like bored to death. So I'm gonna say consequences. Let's see, how is a special ed teacher utilized in the gen ed classroom? Um, this is an important point. So I'm going to say this is poor consequences on sit around and they're like bored. Doesn't really answer the question. So we're going to stick again. It when you're doing your analysis, you have to resist the temptation of highlighting things that don't address the question. You have to stay focused, okay? Um, we were having the discussion yesterday at one of our meetings. We were going over strategic plans. The State Department came down on the teacher principals about it, right? I was sitting in the class and I asked the questions. They were giving examples of goals. They said one of the goals was they were gonna address the needs of the deficient kids and raise their scores 3%. That was one of their goals. My question was, because she asked us, was anything, okay, this is the researcher talking. What is this? Um, what are you going to do to increase the scores? I know they're, I know they're your B and your A students, but what are you going to do to enhance their scores? I mean, it's like I had a class last year. I had like I think there was only like 16 kids in it. So I was like an ideal classroom setting. Out of that, there were only two special ed, but there were four ESL. But one of my students, extremely gifted from Mexico, was fluent, and he would help the other kids. Okay. Uh, so I worried about him not getting what he needed because he was exceptional. But I also had a child that was from, and he was reading on a fourth grade level. But by the time he left that year, he was reading at a ninth grade level, and it was a ninth grade class. Interesting. So he was exceptional. He was a worker, so that was like the ideal classroom setting. However, I had the kids at the top level. I don't feel like they excelled at all because they were spending so much time on other things that they knew they were bored. You know what I mean? It's like, what point do you give them extra work and then it's like punishment? Yeah, busy work. Or sometimes like that. But I mean, other than that, I think it's good. They don't have the competition, and that's why it's public schools failing. Interesting. Um, it's catching up. Yeah, because the top tier kids don't compete anymore, right? They don't have to. How do you compensate for slower learners? Okay. How does having students with disabilities impact your class? Okay. Um, how do you compensate for slower learners? My question was, because she asked, was there anything to go at okay. All right. How do you compensate for slower learners? All right, but there was a question before that. Um, how does having students with disabilities impact your class? Oh, okay. So these must have been impact questions. Uh, You're addressing the kids. What about the kids that are, what are you going to do? I know they're only BNA students. We're having discussion. We're going to the state. I asked a question. They said that, okay. All right. So make sure I didn't skip it. 10 years you've handled. Okay. Why do you think that is shorthanded? Hey, nobody pays attention. Okay. So I know what I think I know what he did. He didn't ask the question. So because the person already handled, he already addressed it. So here's what happens sometimes. When a respondent is speaking and they answer another question that comes later in the discussion guide, a lot of times people won't ask the question because they've already answered the question, right? So this question here says, how does having students with disabilities impact your class? Remember when I highlighted that area where it says, well, I'm concerned about the students who are gifted or more talented being left behind? That was actually the answer to Q2A before he even answered or asked the question, right? So he answered the question without even being asked the question, right? So now what we're going to do, now that I realize that, and I didn't realize that until I came to this other question down here that is Q2B. So the interviewer was like, okay, he's already asked that question, answered that question, so I'm not going to ask it, right? If that makes sense, type in a 1. So now what I'm going to do is where he was making those statements about I'm concerned about my brighter students being left behind. That's going to be my answer to that's going to be my answer to Q2A. So let me show you. Okay. But sometimes I feel like it's not special needs that feel I feel like the upper kids don't go anywhere. Yeah, okay. So for Q2A, how does having students with disabilities impact your class? Um, It could be, so the answer here would be um smart students are not challenged or motivated. Okay? So that's the code. Um we were having discussion. Okay, this is a researcher. I mean, it's like I had a class last year. I think there was only 16 kids, like an ideal classroom. Out of that was special ed, but there was 4 ESL. But one of my students, extremely gifted from Mexico, was fluent and he would help the kids. Um, what I worried about was him not getting what he needed because he was exceptional. But I also had a child in reading the 4th grade level. So he was exceptional. He was a worker, and that what was like an ideal classroom setting. However, I had the kids at the top level. I don't feel like they excelled. Okay. Um, so this is another example. So however, the kids at the top level, I don't feel they excel at all because they were spending so much time on other things that they knew that they were bored. And it's like, what's the point? Okay, yeah. So this is another one that goes with students. Smart students are not challenged or motivated. Okay. All right. So you see how that worked? The person through their dialogue answered a question that was not posed. So instead of posing the question, you just have to go and just make sure you code it properly um, here. All right. So now we come to the other question. In the English language class, in the English language arts class, especially because of all the IAPs, almost all of them said they had to be read to. So we read everything about aloud in class. I do not have homework. Okay, so interesting. I do not have anything that's outside reading, unless it's like the AP class or something like that. So essentially, what he's saying is that he compensated for the slower learners by having everyone at the same level as the slower learner. So in other words, how did you compensate? So essentially what he did, is he basically performed at the lowest level. Okay, let me keep reading on and see if I can get something better. I do not have anything outside unless it's like AP class or something. They have stuff, but I do everything in class. We read everything out loud. We do everything that you're supposed to do for reteach and stuff like that. Target for understanding, and I always have active reading guides with their reading. So we have something to target while they're going through. We pre-read, talk about things that are related to it before we read so they understand before. I don't know. I think they've been very successful. That level, but like I said, the ones at the top, yeah, kind of like can't we read silently and stuff like that? So sometimes I'll let a group of them go to the library to read on their own. Um, that could affect them in college, right? Yes, and that's why I think our ACT scores aren't right where they need to be. Okay, so basically he's saying that they compensate, so they teach at the lowest level. So they teach at a lower, so I'll say teach at a lower level. Teach at the level of the students with disability. Yeah. So they teach at the level with the students of disability. I do everything, but I don't do, oh, yeah, this is all teach at the same level. Teach at the level of the students with disability. Um, they're like, we pre-read, da, 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 but I don't know the level, but okay. I want to get something that says he's concerned about the other students. Kind of like they're like we read silently and stuff like that. So sometimes I let the group, the level, but like I said, the ones at the top. Um, how do you compensate for the slower learners? Uh, that level, but like I said, the ones at the top. Um, teaching at the students with disabilities level hurts top students. Okay. Kind of like they're like, well, can we read silently? Okay. So I'm going to say that one as well. All right. How does school utilize a special ed classroom? How does having students with the smart students? Actually, I'm gonna code this one as smart students are not challenged or motivated. That's basically the same thing, but it's a weaker one. Yeah, it's a weaker one. That's fine. All right, so let's go. Let's that could affect them in college, right? Okay, fine. Do you feel that students with disabilities can learn in general education classroom settings? Okay. So can students learn in gen ed? So that's 3A. Yes, I think they do. However, God did not make everybody perfectly, you know. There are some people that are limited in what they can and cannot do. Our school system does not, I want to say, teach to that. They should be teaching life skills. And for those students that do not have the mental capability of being out there and working an office job or something like that, they need to have jobs and learn skills on the job training that those kids in high school. Um, yes, but learning needs to be, let's see, yes, they can learn, but it should be life skills focus. So, yes, but should be life skill focused. Life skills focused. Okay. So that's basically what he's saying here. Yes, they can, but I don't know if you want to say dumb it down, but he's basically saying you need to teach at their capability. That's interesting. I interviewed a high school math teacher. Nobody, you're just wasting time. What is he doing? Um, she basically said the same thing. She's got a great class. Okay, fine. Well, even the kids that are gifted, most of them come out here, they don't even know what a checkbook is. Oh, so wait a minute. Okay, so he's saying we don't teach that anymore, you know? It's just like common sense things. Hmm. So let me see. Yes, but should be more life skills focus for all. I'm going to say for all. So yeah, I'm going to edit this. Focused for all students. Because at first I thought he was just talking about students with disabilities, but he's talking about even the smart students. That's interesting. Well, even the kids that are gifted, yeah. So he says the same thing. Well, his emphasis up here is mainly about students with disabilities, but then he supplements it here with this. So I'm going to add this as well as additional clarifying support for this statement. When I used to teach seniors, most of the seniors still filling out a job application is like, what does this mean? I'm like, Are you kidding me? You're a senior and you don't know?" I'm like, what do you mean you don't know if you're a citizen? Of course you're a citizen. You were born in the United States. Interesting. It's just like these are gifted kids. It's just common sense things they haven't seen. Interesting. And they should, let's see, and the researcher is saying, uh, and they should see. My daughter had one. She filled out a job application and she left it on my desk on my counter, like in the kitchen. I picked it up. She filled it out for the red ball place and department store, and okay, whatever. I read it the first time. It was a joke because I read the front of it and she had some fictitious stuff in there. Then I read the back of it, and it had all the references. It had it looked as if she was really trying to get the job. I said, "Oh, she meant for me to see this sixth grader, right? She had to come home to learn that." Interesting. Let's see. Oh yeah, like the seniors, I would do two things. You either have to do your college application or a job application. It didn't have to be both. You got to pick. Our kids were leaving here. They don't know how to fill out applicate for scholarships. They don't know how to do any of that stuff. I used to do it in the classroom with them because they never heard of that stuff. I still had kids that were like, okay, so am I considered a veteran? I said, have you served in the military? I was like, dude, I said, you know what Veterans Day is? It's like teaching things that you're like you thought they knew and they have no clue. Interesting. Um, wow. So we're worried about the academics so much sometimes. It's just like the life, they're just thrown out there. They have no clue. People are like, why don't you excel when they go to college? Because they've never done anything on their own. Everything is handed to them, and they're not told everything. Okay. So your kids will be fine. My kids were fine because we taught our kids. A lot of these don't have anybody at home teaching them. And honestly, some of them don't, parents don't have bank accounts. Don't have bank accounts, you know. Additionally, um, it's like, yeah, I've taken many kids over the bank to get an account before they were away to college. Yeah, my kids already got one. My wife, she's a techie. Her degree, one of her degrees is in technology from, okay, whatever. Um, she does a lot of research on different stuff like schools and stuff. They have phones, but they cut off at a certain time at night. She can monitor everything, every computer in the house, and she's on it. She came up with this idea to give them their not credit cards, but they're like debit cards, or sort of, for kids. We load them from our in our bank system. Instead of putting their allowance in their hands, we give it to them on the card, and that's what we do. And that's what the world is. Nobody's carrying paper money around. That's true. Um, so they're keeping track of their money. They're going online and ordering things. You know, the questions pop up. Well, mom, what should I do? If I do this, you know, they're learning how to manage their money at very young age. Okay. That's it. But a lot of our students that are here, their parents don't have credit cards, you know. I've had kids come to me, they can't pay their ACT, they give me the cash. I go online for them and do it for them. So, I mean, we've got a lot of people that aren't connected at home. Honestly, their parents don't want them. I've got a bright girl this year, and I took her to Shepherd this summer. Her parents don't want her to go to college. They told her it's a lot of money you're going to be putting out, and you're going to have student loans and blah, blah, blah. And they do not want her to go. And I was just shocked. That's awful. Okay. Right. And they will, let's see, what question are we dealing with? Do you think students with disabilities should? Yeah, see, they're just talking right now. Um, and they will not take on college visits. Do you think the students with disabilities should have their own? Yeah, no, it's 3A. We're still in 3A. They will not take on college visits. I said, tell your parents not to worry. Everything will go. Here in West Virginia, you will be covered. You will be fine. I said at most your output maybe 5,000 a year in student loans, but you'll be fine. I hope it works out for her. It will, cause you're on it. But see, she's one of my tennis skills. So I can't follow all the kids, but when I taught seniors, I would see a lot more. See, this guy's he's lost control. He's lost control of his interview, and it's just talking, right? And He's only asked three questions and we're almost at the end. So he lost control. He lost control of the interview. That's let's see. So we don't have this. We don't have, let me see, just we don't have this home at school. It's like so they're basically just having a conversation now and he's not getting to his questions. Research, okay. I'm talking if there's mental, let me see. What is your perception of general education being told? Okay, he hasn't gotten to any of that. So like self-contained situation. I'm talking there's a mental deficiency so low that you cannot function in a regular classroom. That's a good word directionally. Do you think students with disabilities should have their own classroom? Okay, so this is another question. Okay. Uh-oh. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Do you think students with disability and why? So he's only on 3B and it's already near the end of the time. Only in extreme cases. And that's what the response is going to be. Only in extreme cases. Okay. Um, I'm talking if there's a mental deficiency so low that they cannot function in a regular classroom. Okay. So this is an example of the extreme case. So we're going to add that. Yes, I mean, other than that, I don't see, yes, I mean, other than that, I don't see why not. I mean, I've kids that the one-on-one aiding in the classroom, it didn't hurt the classroom any. It actually made it better. One boy with autism, he was so super smart. He always had the right answers. Just he needed somebody just there just in case he got upset. Okay. All right. So, all right, that's fine. Or it should be only. Let me just edit that. Only. Okay. All right. So now he's rushing. Everybody got something out of that, right? I agree. What is the perception of general education being told? Okay, so now he's trying to rush. Okay. Always maintain, don't get into these long diatribes with your respondents because you'll get off track. I think they have to. Um, must have professional development. What is your perception? I think they have to. I think if they don't, they're not doing what they're supposed to do to be doing for their students. Okay, so yes, it's necessary. What is the perception? You're told that um, it's necessary. It's necessary. Um, because it's negligence if they don't. Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to break that up. I'm going to say it's necessary. I'm going to break that up into two codes. So I'm going to say it's necessary because the question has two parts, right? Um, what is the perception of general being told that they must have professional development in regards to special? It's necessary. No, I think I like that. I thought it had a Y to it. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna read it's necessary, otherwise it's negligence. I'm just gonna say it's necessary. Yeah, it's necessary. I'm just gonna keep it simple. And then on the back end, we'll be able to see um, when we're doing the level two comparisons, we'll be able to see if other people, the variations in it's necessary. Okay, do you think have professional development? Do you think that general education should have? I think they have to. It's necessary. What is your perception? It's necessary. Do you think that general education should have special? What is your perception? Okay, the perception is okay. So the perception is it's necessary, otherwise it's neglect. Okay, so that's the perception. It's necessary, otherwise it's neglect. Okay, because this is a perception question. Okay, now this next one is, do you think general education should have professional development and special education? So this is about general ed. And so now, yes, I think they have to. And not only for that, because quite honestly, they're not around in a lot of our schools. So, okay, so this one actually goes here for A. And now describe, let's see, what is your perception? Do you think that general education should have professional development? Describe, maybe there was a 4B that wasn't asked. Let me check. Uh, Maybe there was a 4B that wasn't asked yesterday. Yeah, that was so there's a 4B that wasn't asked yesterday. All right, so yes, I think so. This is 4B. So this is new. Yes. Oh, you just answered that. Oh, okay. So he used the same. Okay. So he used the same thing. Well, one was about perception, and we're going to say yes. Um, it's necessary, and there is a shortage of special ed teachers. Okay. So I'm going to move this. No, I'm just going to keep it. I'll move that later. So yes, it's necessary, and there's a shortage. There seems to be the norm. Describe the training that you have had. Okay, see, now he's trying to rush in the last 6 months. Um, you see how all his questions now are all really close to one another because now he's trying to rush because he was talking too much. He lost control. Uh, I'd say nothing. They mentioned diversity, and that was about it. So let's see. Describe the training, no training in the last 6 months. So this person also said no training in the last 6 months. So what we do, since we already have no training, we're just going to double click on that and just assign that same code. Okay, common. That's pretty common answer. How often do you have training in collaboration? How often do you have training in collaboration? Now he's trying to rush. You can see training on collaboration. Yeah, training to learn to collaborate with special education teachers. Never. Um, So the answer here is never. So how often? And he was put never. Okay. Never. Okay. They'll say there's let's say they'll say there's collaborative. Um, what is that thing they started where we'd come in early, they take a day off of school and we'd all come together and sit, but the special educator didn't add anything to the conversation. There was none. I mean, nobody comes to me and says, "Can we see your lesson plans?" Okay, okay, so here we're gonna add this too. Okay. Um, Nobody does any of that. When I taught middle school, I had I had a special educator. She asked me to turn my lessons plans to her a week before. She would go through them and she'd say, "This would really help if you did such and such and this and this and this." Then she goes, "If you need me to, I can pull them out and help them with this skill," and so on and so forth. Okay. So that's an example. Um, how often? Okay, so we'll say uh ideal situation, ideal situation of collaboration. That's the way it should be. That's co-teaching. Let's see. Right. Shiny. What happened? Can you tell me what policy? Okay. Did he ask the question about the numbers? Never. That's the way it should be. He asked the question about policy. I think that's all the inclusive setting. That's the manual. Okay, so what's 2419? He doesn't know. Um, okay, so what's 2419? So he doesn't know. So that's the answer. He doesn't know. Where's the question dealing with 2419? Oh, here it is. Excuse me. Doesn't know the policy. So he doesn't know the policy. Okay. Let's see. That's technically this is fine. Worked it out the way the law reads. Okay. What were your recommendations for teaching students with disabilities? Um, Treat them like any other student. So treat them like any other student. What are your recommendations? Get to know them. Higher level classes should have fewer students. Um, Treat them like any other student. So that's going to be treat them like any other student. Treat them like any other student. Okay. So basically treat people like individuals. Okay, fine. Respect them all. Yeah, they're people. It doesn't matter. Um, so basically still putting words in their mouth. I don't have a problem with it. Okay. Treat them like any other student. Respect them all. So he's asking another question. How do you feel about students with disabilities being in their class with non-peers? See, now he was short. He didn't ask all his questions. I don't have a problem with it. I think it should be that way. Um, so this one, he's saying the same thing, no problem. So we're going to highlight that and we're going to click on no problem. Okay. And that's that. All right. So we finished coding that. So now we will go on to the third one tomorrow. Okay. Are there any questions? So the takeaway from tonight is this person, the interviewer, lost control of the interview. He lost control. They started, you know, because they both think alike. So they started talking and sharing stories. And then at the end, he realized he was running out of time. And he started, okay, boom, 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 boom. I got to ask all these questions shotgun style. You can't do that. Maintain control of the discussion or the interview. Okay. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, type in a Y. Did you see how he lost control in the middle? I mean, he wasn't asking any questions. I mean, look, this whole section, he lost control. All this from here, all down here, he lost control. He lost control. Okay. All right. Are there any questions? If you have any questions, all right. Final question on the scale of 1 to 10. 10 is extremely clear. 1 is not at all clear. Scale of 1 to 10, please. Is this process starting to make sense a little bit? Yeah, looks like it. Okay, good. 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 Okay, good. Good. Excellent. 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 All right. So we will meet tomorrow, 8 p.m., and then that will be the third. We will start working on the third transcript. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm glad that we're able to keep these around an hour, so that's good. All right. Thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Now I'm traveling during the day, but I shouldn't have any problems getting to my destination by 8 p.m. So just letting you know, we will meet tomorrow at 8 p.m. Okay? Thank you so much. Have a good evening.